Hey guys, Michael Ketchen here with another episode of the Michael Ketchen Show. Joined with, as always, by Matthew Hitchcock.
How we doing?
Back, Arizona takes 3 months off. The guy's back now. And one of my good buddies, Josh Mackintosh.
Yeah, brother.
How you doing?
It's great to see you, man. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited that you're able to do this and get
up.
up.
Oh man,
and,
it's awesome.
It's always a pleasure seeing you, and when there's not so many giant hulking men around making me feel like a mighty midget.
Well, it's nice to put a name with the face too, because you talk about him all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
the guy is just a super unique, mellow. We actually hung out a couple of times, but every time it's I don't know if you remember or not. The first time we have a buddy, Eric Langlois.
Yeah.
He's like, I just got to tell the story. So I go to Eric's house, and Eric's like, "Come hang out. We'll have cigars." Now, my friends, we hang out, we talk shit, we do this. I walk down the driveway, and he's like running up and down the stairs frantically. I didn't know he was a chef. I knew none of this at the time. So I'm like, all right, why is this psycho guy running up and down? And then why are all these giant men in this driveway going ugh? I felt like I was walking into something. Dude, they're bending fucking nails. And do you want to try? I'm like, no, I don't want to fucking try. What about 5'8" and 210 says I'm going to bend a nail? So shout out to Eric for the intro, but he ends up telling me a little bit about Josh, and I was so fascinated because we had just gone to Montana for the first time. Your primary profession, you were a private chef, right? In-home chef. And at the time, you were working for someone with the YC out in Montana, which is my favorite place.
Yeah.
And I was just so intrigued by that.
Totally.
And then you cooked us one of the best fucking meals in this tiny kitchen in Methuen that I've ever had. And I was like, I love this guy.
By the way, Yellowstone Club for anybody that's not in the know with the
Oh,
YC.
yeah, with the YC.
With the YC.
Yeah, the YC.
No, for
But
sure. Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, thank you. What are you up to today? And then let's get into No Fame Games when we're here to talk about. Tell us everybody you got cooking today. Are you still chefing, I believe?
I am.
You got that going.
Yeah, that's my 9 to 5 my day job, the one that pays the bills and, gets the family, taken care of. And yeah, so I work for a billionaire who lives in Wellesley. They're in the cyber tech security industry. Yep. And they're based out of Israel mostly, but they have, their American branch. And that's what I do. Before that, I worked for some celebrities, and then before that, when I first met you, I think it was, or I just transitioned over from one of the majority owners of the Yellowstone Club, and that was a ride. And going out there was, but yeah, going back to that story though, I mean, you get these guys. It's not Eric is a big dude, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you got a guy named Eric Dawson who owns Titan Barbell, 6'5", almost 400 pounds, and just it's just these guys, and that's so meeting people like Eric and going to the Scottish Highland Games and understanding a little bit more of my heritage and my background and having a son and wanting to or trying to find out what it is that I'm going to pass on to him. Mm-hmm. My wife also has Irish and Scottish heritage, and it was we went to this Highland Games in New Hampshire at Loon Mountain.
Yep.
Yeah.
And man, I walk up to see the athletics, and I'm like, fuck me, this is awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember I went a couple of years back. It was a blast. Went up for the whole weekend.
Yeah. You got to go to No Fame Games.
I know.
Because you think that's fun. I'm just going to jump right in. I was going to have this whole itinerary, but fuck that. I'm going to get right into it.
Yeah.
So the bending of the nails was a preview. So John, I remember how I think I saw it on social media or something. And I was like, hey, Eric, get me in touch. We'd be happy to help out and sponsor, because you could just see the passion you had for it. And we got to go that first year. And it's usually in the summer. When is it this year?
It's in June 21st this year.
June 21st. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have that for the staff, and the staff wants to go. We cover it, and we're happy to sponsor. So we go. And Hannah and I go, and we brought a dog with us at the time. We brought Beans, and it's family friendly. It's an unreal day. But dude, the stuff that these men and women are doing, I mean, they're fucking throwing poles, legit
poles,
logs.
Yeah.
They're throwing, what's the one where you're putting the spikes on the weighted bushels or something? Dude, it's fucking insane. And you just look at it going, who are you people? And they compete around the country, and they come in. And you put together this whole idea, and even the name. What's the backstory at the No Fame Games? There's something with the name there. I know that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So coming out of COVID, we were losing games. We just were losing festivals. Things were dying. And me and a few of the guys, Eric being one of them, were like, we need to do something about this. Mm-hmm. Things are going to die if we don't step up. So we just a band of misfits and, really strong people, men and women, just came together, and we were like, I need to figure out how we're going to carry this on for the future. Mm-hmm. And so No Fame, one of the guys came up with the name No Fame Games. And it really was about going back from the trophies and all the fanfare and the fame and to the camaraderie and coming together and being with people of like mind and just having a fucking good time. Just being with people, not worrying about all the limelight and trophies and numbers and all that necessarily, but just going back to the roots of why we do this and why it's important to be with other people who help you be better. So that was one part of the No Fame Games. The other part was to give back to the elders who had not been in the limelight, who maybe been behind the scenes. So people like the equipment people or just the other athletic directors, or volunteers or people who have been significant figures in the community for decades that just, they show up, mostly volunteer, but the games and strength culture would not have continued without them. So that's kind of the dual meaning. And then once we found a niche in social media, particularly on Instagram, and doing slow-mos and just like hyping up, these guys throwing 56 bags.
Super impressive.
Just going, dude, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And my favorite takeaway, my favorite moment from it, and it ties in what you just said there, but the thing that impressed me was the community aspect of it. And there's something with people that we need, especially during COVID, when we are social creatures. And to see that town come together, I mean, Matt, like food trucks everywhere, vendors everywhere. Everyone's got a smile on their face.
Totally.
Everyone's competing but rooting for each other.
Yeah.
Kids are there. Seniors are there. The year that we checked it out, you had the local firefighters and police competing against each other as a team. So you played that off, and I'm like, there were hundreds, if not thousands of people. It was incredibly impressive.
Thanks, brother.
And I had no idea what I was walking into. I'm like, all right. Hannah goes, what are you doing? I go, I don't know. We're gonna go see some crazy. I'm picturing like a bunch of like Erics, just like running around, and it was cool as hell. And one, just what is it like when you're sitting back, and I don't think people realize when you're taking on something that big, that starts as a tiny idea, and then it becomes. What was the first one like? Did people think you were nuts? Like, what did your wife say when you told her you were gonna do this?
She actually was really into it. I think it's so healthy. It's not like you're doing something degenerative to
she
society.
wants a yoked husband walking around. I get it.
I go around and like look at stones. That's a good stone to lift. She's like, that's okay. You can go do that. I don't have to worry about you. No, but for real, like the part in the beginning, we actually just came together in the back of the Chelmsford, Massachusetts high school in the field. And we were just like, let's just make this happen. It was a total, what we call backyarder.
Yeah.
So just throwers.
We're just gonna throw.
Just love of the game.
Just the love of the game.
Dude, literally, we're just gonna throw some fucking rocks and stones. I mean,
love of the
insane.
game. And I pulled out my grill. I made some Jamaican jerk chicken sandwiches with some mango ginger chutney, and the nickname was the mango chutney games. That was the nickname for it. And it was just like people together, hanging out, having fun. And then we were like, we need to do this more. And through social media, we went from no fame to being more famous.
Yes.
So there's an irony there. But then it just was like, this needed to grow. This needed to get bigger. And there was a demand for it. And there was a need for it to be something that could be accessible by everybody, no matter Celtic or not, whether you're Scottish or not. And there is something to be said about how amazing these athletes are. And I'm a big person on, it's not just inclusivity for sake of inclusivity. It's inclusivity for helping each other be better. You always say bet on yourself. And I lived in Thailand for a long time, and for about 9 years. And one of the things that I learned there's a phrase, it's called atahi atano nato, and that means it's Pali, Sanskrit, and it means only you can be your own refuge, which means you need to become the refuge, the island in the ocean, and be no one's coming for you.
Yeah.
You gotta make it happen. You gotta put in the work. Can't be scared of the work. You gotta be disciplined, have virtue, have character, be a light for yourself, and then that'll naturally be a light for others. And that I keep that in the back burner a lot as part of my mentality. And mentality is everything, right? I mean, how you have built this is from that seed you've nurtured and you've given it the fertilizer it needs, and the love and passion and good vibes, whatever you want to call it, and it's multiplied from there. And I know No Fame Games is because of that, but it's also because of community.
I was about to say community is a huge one. Yeah,
it has. I don't do this alone. I mean, I do a lot. I won't deny myself that, and my wife does.
Oh,
a lot.
you definitely do a lot.
Yeah.
It's like working 3 full-time jobs.
It is, yeah.
For none of the fame and the man behind the curtain.
Totally.
Who is out there. So, yeah, definitely. I'll selfishly plug you on that.
I appreciate that.
Putting it together. It is Josh hitting you up. It is Josh running the page. It is Josh, on top of being an amazing dad, working, being in this business yourself. And, I mean, your clientele isn't exactly... You kind of got to be on, right? There's no off days.
There are no off days
when you're in that space.
Especially as a private chef working for billionaires who run world economy. There is it's game time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that there is a parallel to that life and what I've had to cultivate in my skill sets. Because being a chef is one thing. Being a private chef, you're everything.
Stakes are a lot higher.
Stakes are super high.
No pun intended with stakes.
But no, for real though, it's like you either make it or break quick. And ideally you get good clientele that will help you through the process too. But when you're on that high, that fast, that the pressure cooker and what that is, and running dinners, running VIP guests for celebrities or other, government, Rothschilds, Rockefeller,
how flexible. That's what I was going to say. Touch on that real quick, because I think the mindset does definitely shift. And I loved, what was that saying one more time that you picked up in Thailand? Can you say that? Because that was very impressive.
Yeah, it's basically only you can be your own refuge.
Yeah. It sounded so much cooler. And what was the language they used?
Nato. Yeah, it's Pali Sanskrit. Yeah.
There you go. That sounds amazing. You know that?
No, I didn't. I was going to say it's Polynesian or something like that.
Yeah, it's Pali. Everyone knows it's Pali.
India,
of course, it's Pali.
Sanskrit based. Yeah.
So, on the private chef leading into this, because that's what I don't think people realize. It's like you're not, like we talked about earlier, you're not just meal prepping.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get a call. What does it work? Hey, I've got 10 sudden people coming in tonight. We need, there's this allergy, there's this and that. That is that you are always on. That is pressure that you wouldn't believe. Is the games almost an outlet sometimes? Like where are the parallels you see there? Where do those two run?
I feel it's artistry in the sense of creativity, of being in a mindset of creativity and of adaptability to anything that comes. And you're absolutely right. I'll be just cooking away with a set plan, and then I get a text, and it's like, we got this VIP, whoever, 10 people, 20 people coming in. Luckily, that doesn't happen too much because they're pretty organized. But on those occasions, because they're dealing, and they're like, oh no, we need to do this. Come over, we'll do this deal here. So you're also just you're prepping, you're catering an experience for people.
Yeah.
And which then they will use to run world economy. You want to say that's an extreme example of it, but it's essentially what's happening is it's big time money, big time deals, and that's a kind of microcosm too of what the No Fame Games is we're catering this experience for people to come and to be ideally inspired for their health, for their life, for attaining their own greatness, for putting in the work to be the best them, and to be surround themselves with the best people. Like you're the sum of the 5 closest people to you, right? There's all of these things that you can have this artistry of what experience do we want to cater. And I mean, this year we're going to have the Highland Games heavy events, which is what you're familiar with, the 9 major events.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, and which has a history going back, some say 1,000 years plus. In Celtic nations. And then there's the Team Highlander, which is basically barbell clubs and gyms form teams and they go against each other. Because I wanted to build that camaraderie and
there's that community again. There's that healthy competition again.
Exactly.
There's that goal you're all working towards.
Exactly.
I don't want to go to the gym today, but you know what? I know that the guy next to me is counting on me on June 21st that we've got to be out there. And
totally.
It's the power of community. I mean, we see it. I mean, here at the Standard, right?
Yeah.
You're the private club where if you're joining the Standard, if you're joining one of the things we're doing. those masterminds, those communities you're in, the criteria, and pretty much all of them usually boils down to, I want to gain knowledge and I want to be part of a community, be the best version of, I want to be better.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple in nature, but when it's so rare in today's day and age to find a community that truly is striving for greatness that will hold you accountable.
Accountability.
And I feel like I have yet to meet a successful person who's not accountable.
Totally.
The two usually go, they're pretty hard to fake. You know what I mean? You can fake a lot of things, but if you're not accountable and you're not, like you said earlier, if you're not disciplined, and that's what I think is so impressive with these guys is they're not, when I was watching the games and I'm watching them compete, I'm going, some were flown in, some were sponsored, but for the most part, it's a love and a passion and a commitment.
Totally.
And you're working towards a goal. And I'm willing to bet that transcends into other parts of their lives.
Oh, how you do one thing, so you do everything.
Yes. Yes.
I'm really a believer in that.
Yeah.
And having worked in 3 Michelin star restaurants and trained like in Paris. And,
What's that pressure like? Sorry. So now we're gonna do a little Q&A. So more pressure. Michelin star private chef for what you're doing now.
Oh, Michelin star. It's different though.
Yeah.
I feel.
Can you talk about which ones you worked in?
Those two things. Yeah. Those two things are synonymous, or they're related to each other, because how I trained in the 3 Michelin star restaurants is how I developed habits. Biggest thing I learned from living in Asia too, with my mentors, people I respect there, is the value of habits and how you cultivate habits, how you develop better habits, how you remove bad habits, and that mentality and being surrounded by, they call Galianamitra as the words used, and it's a specific word because it means someone who holds you accountable to be better. That's what a true friend is.
Yep.
A friend is not scared to say when you do something stupid or you're not good enough, you're not where you could be.
Yep.
They're like, oh, you're great, that's great, it's good. No, they're like, this is good, but you can be better, and here's how. And those, whether it's in the gym, whether it's in professional life, whether wherever, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And cultivating that sense of greatness and of professionalism from a 3 Michelin star, it's called Restaurant Taïwan, which at the time was, the year before, it was voted best restaurant in the world by whatever, famous magazine, whatever it was.
Whoever's doing it at that time.
Regardless though, massive amount of pressure. It's was at the time one of the longest standing 3 Michelin star restaurants, 30 plus years. Wow. So this is an establishment.
Yeah.
Wow. So there is so much pressure on the line for them to maintain those 3 Michelin stars.
It's a brand.
They came out. Oh, totally.
I know we love. Have you seen The Bear? The show The Bear.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I never watched it.
Oh, because I was going to
ask you, was it really like that?
Is it like? Tell me, do you got the front of the house, the back? Who's firing shit? I'm like, I want to know this.
It's nonstop chaos. That show is nonstop chaos.
Yeah. Which is get you on the edge of your seat.
Drama, chaos the whole time.
You're gonna have to watch it and come back on because now we gotta talk about this.
Here's the thing, though, is so there's another famous chef, Thomas Keller, runs Per Se.
Yep.
So his restaurants and how he runs the chef, from what I've heard, we owe him a great debt of gratitude for nouveau American cuisine. He's one of the people who's really pushed American cuisine to be have respect.
Yeah.
And his restaurants and how he runs kitchens are very professional, and they're respectful from what I've heard. Obviously there's a lot of heat and tension. There's a lot on the line. When I was in Paris, man, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It was 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. And
you better be dialed in every time.
And I lived in an attic and near the Champs-Élysées. And it was it was wild. I remember, and there was, it was old school, and you go in and you just have your ass kicked for the entire time that you're there.
6 days a week.
Yeah, it was actually, this place was so famous they were closed on the weekends.
Oh, so at least little nice break.
Yeah, but that Saturday, I remember talking to one of the other chefs, and I was like, "What do you do on Saturday?" I was like, "They don't wake." He was like, "I don't wake up until 5 p.m."
You're just mentally drained.
You're just so fried, and so it's really just Sunday where you recover. But But anyway, the professionalism and the standard of excellence, when that becomes a habit, when how you operate, how you maintain your station, how you understand the flow of the kitchen, or just a profession, you understand the dynamics, the intricacies of it, the mechanics of it, that becomes a part of your mentality. And for me, that is then transferred over to being a private chef, because I can say, with confidence, also it's reps, also it's just being there, making mistakes, all of those things, learning, that the food part of it is not my biggest concern when I'm a private chef. My bigger concern is, how do I make sure I cater this full experience with the sourcing of the ingredients, yes, the preparation, the plating, but the service. So I'm like a one-man restaurant in a way, or I'll have my employers will hire out, and their server, so that I can make sure the food's warm or whatever, depending on the style of service that we're doing. But that it becomes more about, how do I refine the details, push the 1% every meal, every party, every time, to get that much better. So it's like it's getting better, and people are having such an amazing, or ideally having an amazing experience, that it doesn't get plateau, it doesn't get dull, because a lot of these type of people, when they get used to a certain standard of excellence, they're like, even though that standard of excellence is like, up here, you're the fucking man, like you're badass, they're like, well, they get used to that. Yeah. And so you kind of you can't give all your cards away in the beginning. Yeah. There's still dishes that I hold on to. My current employer is almost 5 years, and I'll sometimes pull out things, just to keep them, remind them, that of why you're paying me the big bucks, to be there. Yeah. And also, the biggest thing I think for private chefing is being open to feedback. Yeah. Not having your ego get in the way, and that's what living in Asia, and practicing and learning those principles, which you can learn anywhere. You have to be in Asia, but I just happen to learn it there.
But I feel like that's a very, obviously the martial arts stuff, but I feel like maybe, because Hannah and I have ate a lot of Michelin. That's what we do for like our anniversary, our celebrations. We enjoy it. But what we haven't done is one in Asia. And I feel like Asian culture is very disciplined by nature. Yeah. And I feel like, man, what a springboard to put yourself there to learn. Not that, obviously, French cuisine is the standard. I get all that. Yeah. But I feel like culturally, like you said, one of my mentors said something to me. I was asking him, I'm like, what's the biggest thing to get? This guy's on his way to becoming a billionaire. He's pretty damn close. And he's really exploded over the last 7 years. That's awesome. And he said, the big thing is kill the ego. And I said, what do you mean by that? Because that sounds easy, right? Everyone says kill the ego. He said, you need to share the glory, let other people have the win, and just surround yourself with people where you're open to feedback. And it's 3 simple things. Totally. But as people, we get it. So when you said the Asia, the ego, I feel like that helps a lot. Yeah. Where, like you said, like you want the experience to be great, but if someone's on eggshells and they can't be honest with you, exactly, it's not going to be great.
It's not. Yeah. And you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's I feel...
That's good life in business. Oh my God, not just
right?
chefing.
Right? That's the whole idea, is like that empty cup mentality, whether you're a pro or not. I was a monk in Asia for a few years.
Of course you were, Josh. Why does this...
Add it to the resume.
It just makes sense. Yeah. This guy needs a fucking documentary, right? It's like, you just get out here and write a book.
It matters because I was so fascinated with the mental game and mentality. And yes, spirituality and what, the cycle of life and Earth and the universe. You look in the stars, you're like, what are we fucking doing here?
A big rock circling through space.
Yeah, literally hurling itself around the center of the universe. Yeah. It's just like, so I remember though, asking my mentor, why are we born? Why are we here? And he was unique, him and his, the other abbot, so the abbot and vice abbot of the temple. The temple was founded by a nun, which in Thailand is very rare, extremely rare. And
so the monk temple was founded by a nun.
Yeah. And there's a patriarchy in Thailand. There's no way around that. But what was so unique is she was uber famous for her, super capabilities, we'll say. And there's documentation of it online during World War II when the Japanese invaded. And anyway, she was just really respected for her ability to understand life and even like text, scripture. She was illiterate though. She'd never read anything. So her internal knowledge of being able to understand life and wisdom and then be able to talk to scholars of like scriptural scholars.
Yeah.
And be able to explain things that they couldn't understand, even though she was illiterate. The reason why I bring that up is the inner wisdom of how important it is to cultivate wisdom from within and to look within for answers. Not, of course, to use what we learn outside, but then to learn to be able to be that refuge. And that comes from looking within, right? And being real with what's happening within. So my mentor said that his teacher, the nun, was like, we are here to cultivate better habits.
Yep.
That if in this lifetime you can develop one good habit and get rid of one bad habit, your life has not been wasted.
Wow.
And that's over like, they're looking at, so this is very deep, so I don't want to go too deep on it and to turn people off. But so their principle is, this isn't your only lifetime. And so looking through the course of tens, hundreds, millions of lifetimes, that someone who can, have that perspective, that mentality, that scope will say that if you can develop one good habit and remove one bad habit, and this lifetime has not been wasted, is a huge statement. So for me, in the tradition there, they really break down habits and the journey of self-development in different virtues that you can cultivate. There's 10 traditional ones. I don't need to go into all of them, but the point is of how important this journey is and how important the moment is and this time is to do as much good as you can. That help other people, to not just be not be the ego, to a rising tide lifts all boats, to be that rising tide. And that's what I've tried to base No Fame Games, the foundation of that with that mentality. So like when we have the heavy events, we have the Team Highlander, and this year we're adding Celtic wrestling. And there's
what is Celtic wrestling?
So it's
I was like, we got a black belt in JJ over here.
I won't do well with that, I don't think, but I want to know what it is.
I want to figure it out.
Backhold. So Scottish have what's called backhold wrestling, which is fixed grip, and whoever throws the person down first or breaks the grip wins.
I see. Okay.
Oh, we got to get Matt in this. Can we add Matt? Can Matt?
Yeah. Well, then there's.
Do they have weight classes for this?
They do. And
you
so,
versus Eric Langwich. That'd go.
No, that wouldn't go well.
If you're a gi guy, there's also Irish collar and elbow wrestling, which is coming. And there's a guy from Chicago. His name's Tom Headhunter Higgins, and he's a 2-time world champion catch wrestling.
Matt to go with him. We're trying to kill Matt. We're trying to get.
he's a black belt in BJJ, but he has Irish roots. And what's so fascinating about him is he discovered Irish collar and elbow wrestling, which was so popular in the U.S. at one time that George Washington and Abe Lincoln were practicing it. It was the most practiced. It was the most practiced martial art of the time, aside from bare knuckle.
Yeah.
And maybe like some catch or early forms of catch. So it's jacket, collar, and elbow, and it's a similar idea. It's basically leg fencing, from what he says, and like kind of judo.
I was about to say Irish judo-ish.
Yes.
So have you done? I mean, is this tied to the gi and JJ? Is all kind of same?
We don't do a ton of like judo style. I mean, we do some judo, but most of the stuff that I do is on the ground.
You're gonna have to go with Kaylee and the social media team now to represent us. We gotta get Matt in there.
There's no doubt.
I mean, Kaylee, can we?
I'll have them throw me around
the 21st
for demonstrations.
Can you stop being a bitch? Like
I'm not gonna,
we understand.
I pull guard, son. I end up going on bars.
Can we pull guard on this? Is there no? There's no guard.
See, it's not gonna work.
It's all
I
standing.
don't know anything. It's all standing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's different.
I think you can toss somebody.
I mean, yeah, if I catch it right, if it's someone that's been training it for a long time, it's going to be tough.
Well, here's the thing is like most of the people don't know what the fuck they're doing because they don't know it exists, where this guy, Tom, he's coming and the Scottish backhold, it's really for fun, for community, to involve the MMA community, to help people. One of the things that I love from training Muay Thai, and I used to train jiu-jitsu for a little while, is not necessarily being able to kick someone's ass. That's like not the thing on my mind. The thing on my mind is this confidence. It's how much confidence I've built just living life.
Better to be a warrior in a garden than a garden in a war.
Exactly. I think that's really true, but I feel too that it's the mental game and the evolution that you go through from a white belt to a black belt, and that journey, and that these practices, whether it's throwing heavy shit or a log, or lifting a stone, or it's wrestling, it's not being scared of the challenge, and there's this really famous phrase it's called the Havamal. It's the old Viking stanza, which is, in difficult times, I am happy in my heart, full of courage, without any complaints. Fortune will perish, men shall die, you also shall die, but the legacy of those who do good shall never die. Wow. And that's from like a long time ago, right? That for me, like incorporating, the strongman, the Highland Games, the 9 events, the Celtic wrestling. We also have Celtic stone lifting and the tradition of that, which goes back thousands of years of traditionally it was tests of manhood, but it was a way for a man or just a person in society to earn recognition because of the journey it takes to be able to lift a 300-pound stone or or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That all of these practices, some of them are dying, like Irish collar and elbow, Scottish backhold. Now we're in an era where Celtic stone lifting is really, or just stone lifting in general, traditional stone, historic stone lifting is on a rise. And one of the reasons for that is because you look at old Russian, the stands, Eastern Bloc countries, Ireland, Scotland, Iceland, Norway, the Norwegian, the Polynesian, all of them, Japanese, they all have stone lifting. It's fascinating. So
do you think it's, and I don't want to cut you off there, but there's so much to unpack, what you just said. But the thing, like right there, like I think it goes back to, it all ties together like a river. It's like, one, going back to what you said about the phrase about abundance. Well, that's how I classify as abundance. And I like the thing about if you do good, you'll live on. When we talk about wealth, when we talk about life, when we talk about business, when we talk about community, we talk about everything, it comes from a place of abundance. And I think the biggest mindset shift that we all need to make first is an abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset.
Totally.
And I think people hear this and they think it's money. It's not at all. It's the fact that when you build something that everyone's a part of on a community level and you give so much, it comes back.
Yeah.
It's putting that positivity in the universe.
Exactly. It's putting that energy out and attracting. So that was first. The second thing you just said, though, there about the stone throwing and going back to the principles, there is something to be said when you do hard shit.
Totally.
When you do hard things, not only do you get better, people respect the journey. And something as simplistic as throwing a stone, you can't fake.
Totally.
You can't hack. You can't cheat code. And people, if you look at it, there's a reason we've had the Roman gladiators, up through today's modern athletes, up to MMA, up to UFC, up to bare knuckle, up to all these things. People want to respect the gladiator. People want to see the sacrifice. You're the man in the, literally, you're the man in the arena.
Yeah.
And it's all so simplistic and beautiful in nature, but it transcends and it cascades. And we could geek out of this all day.
Totally. But, I feel like this is how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? Yeah. So some people find that journey through physical exercise. Some people find that through developing businesses. Yeah. Like for many of my employers, they don't give a shit about the physical stuff. Like they care about their health, and longevity and their family. But that mentality of being the man in the arena when you're in a huge business deal, like $400 or $500 billion business deal that's happening on a table that I'm cooking for us, like, there's moments where I'm like, holy shit, this needs to go right. But
don't be the guy that fucks this up.
Totally. Or, even for some people maybe have a terminal illness and this is maybe the last time they have red meat, or fish or something, which happened in Montana. And the reason why I say it is, sometimes that mentality, though, of those people who are running that deal or who are responsible for their team, for their business, and that moment for, brokering this deal or making this deal happen and signing it, like that's a gladiator mentality in a way, that they're people in the business world respect and uphold those people because they're so good at what they do. And it's really just skill acquisition. Boil it all down.
Yeah.
It's be useful. Don't
Yeah.
be useless, no matter what you do. And for me, like as a human, you know, coming out of being a monk into, you know, the world, the mundane world or whatever, you know, I saw such crazy, amazing things that you read about in fairy tales. And then I came back to a mundane world. And for me, a bit of it was like, why does it all matter? And I lost that. But then when I remembered, if you cultivate one good habit and you remove one bad habit, you haven't wasted your life. So for me, that was a mindset of don't waste your life. That do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. What matters is how are you cultivating your mentality, your mind? How are you acquiring skills? How are you becoming more useful? And as a father too, that's like a whole nother level. I mean, you're just like, I need to be an example, a role model, at least for me anyway. And I don't want to speak for other men or women or parents. But for me, I was like, I want to be someone that my son can look back at 20 years down the line and be like, he really did everything, and he was useful. He made a difference.
You set an example, and it goes back to you say, it's the privilege of responsibility.
Yeah, totally.
And if you reframe it and you think about, like we were talking about earlier, it's like you have staff, you have a business, you have payroll, you have all these things that go on. And if you reframe, and it's easy to get overwhelmed, it's easy to get pissed, but when I've tried to condition myself to, and I love that, it's the privilege of responsibility. I get to provide that security for somebody else. I get to build something with people that I care about. When you reframe it, it all ties together. Josh, this is amazing. We could keep going.
Yeah.
We're going to have you back on. But I do want to promote this. So No Fame Games, where can people learn about it? Where can they get information? Talk about the IG, wherever you want to send them to.
I think the easiest place to see all the fanfare and the videos is Instagram. So we have at No Fame Game without the S. There's also nofamegames with the S.com, the website. You know, you'll see everything you need to learn about us. We have all the information there. Those are the two main places I'd send people to.
Okay, and June 21st.
June 21st, you got to be there.
We're sending the staff. You got to go.
And the event's going where?
So the event will be at Fino Field in Milford, Massachusetts. Opening ceremony will be at 9 a.m. with the pipes. And then pretty much the whole party. We'll have some awards and, you know, give back to the community for a little while. And then the party really starts at 10 a.m. until around 4 p.m. And there'll be triad station, gourmet food trucks. There's people flying in from all over the world. There's people gunning for world records. But really it's the community, the camaraderie, the vibe is just, it's unparalleled.
It's family friendly,
very
pet friendly. I mean, it's a great day. We're traveling, unfortunately, but hopefully the staff can, like I said, you know, take it. I don't know if Kaylee, I mean, get on social media. Matt's going to go wrestle a guy at this Irish collar
I'll give it a
toss.
shot.
Well, he's going to set it up. You think he's joking? He's going to set some shit up.
No.
Kaylee, we got to get the cameras ready. My money's on Matt Hitchcock, guys. We're going to take this down. World champion. Josh, you're the fucking man. I can't thank you enough for being here. We're going to have you back.
Thank you for supporting. Shout out to you for supporting and making it happen. This needs to be said. Thank you for being the change you wanted. Thank you for supporting us because you've made this a lot better. So thank you, brother.
I appreciate that. And again, we're happy to do it. And we need more good people. And that sense of community creating is unreal. So thank you guys for being here. He's Matthew Hitchcock. I'm Michael Ketchen. And as always, bet on yourself.